Hello! Shoyan here. I'm a carpenter working in Japan. This time, I'm building a larger than normal nure-en. This will be the last work on this site. I'm building a nure-en around the building. At this size, 900mm by 3 meters, it can be called either a nure-en or a WoodDeck. When it's installed, where the wall surrounds it, it's called a WoodDeck. The name varies depending on the usage. First, I cut the lumber to lengths as usual. Of course, I use all Japanese cypress since it'll be installed outside. Cedar hardwood is water resistant, but isn't suitable for a nure-en because it's soft and easily scratched. After cutting the lumber, I plane it. A planer is a machine that can plane the wood's edge at the right angle and make lumber into the same size. This is an old tool. Older craftsmen tend to have bigger planers. Today, young carpenters rarely plane woods on their own. It's already been planed and delivered to the site. Also, the housemaker doesn't use a lot of solid wood. So a carpenter who has a planer is old, and when I visit their workshop, I can see that the machines are also old. I don't use a super surfacer for the nure-en. It tends to be wavy if I only finish with a planer, so I use a sharp blade electric planer only as a top surface and press it slowly. This makes the surface as beautiful as one that has been hand planed. I chamfer the top corner widely. Now I move to the site. It's a beautiful day today. It's very bright, so it's hard to see the laser for leveling. I just placed the laser on the box, but the height coincidentally matched. First, I mix the nure-en's frame. Compared to a regular nure-en, these joists are slightly larger. It's almost the same size as a WoodDeck. I'll be joining the short joist to the pillar and joining the longest one on it. I cut one mortise to each pillar. It's tricky to chisel. There has been a nure-en since the old days. It's like an outdoor version of a nangawa. A nure-en is also called koen. Of course, it'll get wet if it's installed outside. That's why it's called a nure-en. In the olden days, we didn't call a larger one a WoodDeck. We call it a sundeck. We called it the first floor sundeck, the second floor sundeck. It's been called a WoodDeck for the last few decades. People do barbecues or play with small children. I think the name changed as part of that process. I have finished marking the short joists, so I cut them. It's hard to cut if it's a short wood. The deck's height is 5 to 6 mm below the window sash. It won't drain, so I leave a space and fit it in. The drainage on the siding slightly overlaps the joist's bottom edge. I cut off that part and slide it in from the side to install it. I install the 3-meter joist on the front and back of the short joists. Cats are nice, and they can bask in the sun whenever they want. I temporarily set the side joist and then measures the length of the long joist. I use a long joist to warp downward. In that way, the joists will press down on the post from the top when they are installed. Now that I have finished cutting the short joist and the 4 long ones, I install the entire nure-en. I set the short joists first and move them outward just enough to set the long joist. Before I install the actual wooden posts, I set temporarily plastic posts as a support. The plastic post is made like a jack, and its height can be adjusted freely. It's very useful in a situation like this. Now I install 4 posts. I set a 100mm square foundation shim under each one, since it's not good to install directly onto the concrete. A square foundation shim is useful in this case. This concrete floor is sloped, so I measure the angle and cut the post's bottom edge at the angle. When cutting the post at an angle, I need to turn it to the opposite side to cut the back. So I cut from one side with a miter saw as much as possible, and cut the other 1/3 with a handsaw. I can cut it fast and neatly. I measure the height of each post one by one and set them in place. I screw the foundation shim to the bottom of the post. As the only post's top edge will be attached to the joist, I screw from the hidden part. I finished installing the frame. Now I cut the deck boards. The deck boards will be inserted all the way under the window sash. The front edge will be 6mm inside the front surface of the pillars. The deck boards will be spaced about 1 pencil's thickness apart. Even if there are knots on the board's side, the spacing is only the thickness of a pencil, so it won't be noticeable. I want to hand plane the front end of the board. I widely chamfer it and finish it off by painting it. Now, I have finished cutting all the deck boards. The painters will paint them from noon, and I will install them tomorrow. Now the preparations are done. It's nice to take a nap with a cat. I had a painter paint the boards, but since that was only 1 day ago, it is still sticky. But I have to finish it in time, so I will install it. After installing these boards, I will have the painter apply the final coat. First, I secure both ends. I use stainless steel round-head 90mm nails to secure the boards. I don't drive the nail fully home because unexpected things might happen. so I leave room between the nail head and the boards until the position is decided. I cut the deck boards earlier, but the building's wall is uneven, so I make sure to attach a straight piece to align them and measure the lengths. I mark the boards using a chalk line that draws the pilot holes. The chalk line will be removed using a wet towel. If you want to mark a material that is single painted, you should not use a pencil. It's okay to draw a dot, but a line can't be erased with an eraser. Now I drill all the pilot holes. I'm using a drill with a slightly smaller diameter than the nails. If the hole is too big, the nail won't be secured well, and if the nail head floats, water will get in. I secure the middle of the entire nure-en. I shallowly drive one nail to each board. I can drive 2 nails, but my eyes flicker and get in the way if I drive all the nails home from the beginning. I decide the spacing between the boards before driving the nail in. Now I secure all the boards. I set the straight piece on the front. 2 or 3 of the deck boards are 1 to 2 mm shorter than the others. I move them to the front and secure them first, then secure the remaining uniform deck boards. I shallowly drive all nails. Now I start driving all the nails home. The nails are close to the window sash, so I set a board there to protect it while driving in. This stainless steel round head nail is tricky to hammer, but I like it. It will be a nice design if they are aligned neatly, and it will hide the part around the hole where it is splitting. If I use a screw, it'll split more, and the water will accumulate there. I need to be careful not to drive too deep, even if it's a round head nail. I wipe off the chalk line as soon as possible. Even if it's just a chalk powder, it's hard to remove after driving the nails. With a wet towel, I wipe off firmly and forcefully. The slightly large Japanese Cypress nure-en is now complete. It looks easy to use. Sit here like this, brings the barbecue grill to the front, and a lot of people can sit here. It's nice. That's all for today. Thanks for watching.